Hi, I'm Marshall. I'm the owner of Going Gear, and I'm here in our store in Smyrna, Georgia. This is the Zero Tolerance 0450 and 0450 CF. All right, here we are with the two Zero Tolerance 450 variants. We have the original 450 and the 450 CF, both of these being collaborations between Zero Tolerance and Dmitry Sinkovich. So as you can tell, these are pretty similar knives, but there are some obvious differences. One being the black DLC coating that they put on the 450 CF, in addition to that carbon fiber scale. So you have carbon fiber on one side, the black DLC coated titanium on the other side, and then some other nice little touches. So you had red on the original ones on the back spacers, and these have, I think they call that emerald green, so a nice little touch on there. But you can see pretty similar knives if you're ever wondering the difference between the two. Not a whole lot of difference. There is a little bit of difference in weight. You can feel a little bit of a difference in weight, but you can see obviously a darker tone overall to the 450 CF in addition to that carbon fiber. All right, let's put the 450 to the side and let's talk about the 450 CF. So you can tell this thing has a little bit of wear on it. They do not have wear on them coming from the factory. This has actually been my EDC since this knife came out, and man, I love this thing. So this is why this is the first knife video I've done in a while, because this knife actually made me change my EDC, which is kind of unusual for me. I tend to carry the same things for a long time, you know, a year plus, which in my world is an extraordinarily long amount of time. So anyway, let's take a little bit closer look at it, and I'll show you why I like this thing so much. So there's a closer look at that carbon fiber scale. It's got a little bit of texture on it. So they didn't make it super smooth. They didn't buff it all the way down. You can feel a little bit of texture, which actually gives it a decent amount of grip. And the titanium on the other side is pretty smooth, but it has that black DLC coating, which does offer a little bit of grip. So the pocket clip position and the overall design of the knife add a nice feature in opening it. So you got the KVT ball bearing system, which is super smooth, super easy to open, but also it kind of naturally places your fingers in a way where they don't interfere with the lock bar. So some of the other knives on the market that I've seen, maybe not the best designed knives out there, is when you're holding it, your index finger or not your index finger, your middle finger or some of your other fingers are kind of pressing on that lock bar, which can make it really difficult to open because you're pressing on that detent and it just makes it difficult to kind of get it open. But this one, it kind of naturally places your middle finger right in the groove of that pocket clip when you're opening it up, so it keeps everything out of the way really well. And the pocket clip, no matter how hard you press on it, just the way it's situated, you can kind of see it's on the lower part right there. It's not pressing on the lock bar. So I'm pushing on that super hard, and you can see it's not really messing with the detent or the ability of the knife to open up. Just another nice little touch that you see on this knife that make it such a pleasure to own and open and close. You obviously have the one-handed closing that's really easy to do. Really smooth lock system. It's not sticky at all, so it doesn't stick thanks to the stainless steel against stainless steel. So it opens and closes one-handed very easily. Like pretty much all of their new knives, anything they've produced recently, they've got that little lock bar insert. So titanium is a relatively soft metal, and it can wear when you're flipping it 500 times a day like a lot of knife guys do against steel. So they've got a little steel lock bar insert in there. Let's see if we can get a closer look at that. See how close we can get. Oh, that's as close as we can get. Maybe we'll just bring it closer to the camera. But anyway, there's a little insert in there that is what contacts the blade, and that makes it just have a longer life. And that way, if you ever have to send it in for warranty repair, if there's ever any lock issues or anything like that, they can just replace that insert instead of having to replace the entire lock bar and the entire side of the knife. So you can see on the clip they also put a coating on there, so it's got a nice black coating on there. That's the part that I see, other than the blade, of course, that is making contact with a lot of things. So I really like the way it gets kind of a distressed look. I think it looks really cool. If you've seen some of my flashlight videos, you've seen that I'm a big fan of copper these days. So I like the distressed natural look that things get. And this pocket clip is no exception. It's not a super deep carry pocket clip, which I like for this knife because it's not an overly large knife. So you got a little bit sticking out. You can reach in there and grab it pretty easily. There's the blade. You can see the blade. I actually haven't gone over the basic specs of this thing. So let's talk about the basic specs. I've got ZT's website sitting here on my tablet right next to me. So we are going to use that and talk about all the different specs because it's kind of hard for me to memorize all those things. All right, so basic technical specifications. This is S35VN steel. If you ever forget that, they always engrave it on the blades. You got it right there. DLC coating on the blade and then on the lock bar as well. You've got a carbon fiber front, titanium back, 3.25 inches on the blade length, 4.1 inches on the closed length, and then the overall length when it is open is 7.4 inches. Weight on this is 2.7 ounces, so super, super lightweight knife. And this is still a zero tolerance, so you still get that made in America, lifetime warranty. Super durable, super tough knife. Can still handle hard use. I mean, I wouldn't try to pry open car doors with it, but it can still handle a lot more than your average knife because it is a zero tolerance. They're made to be tough use, kind of abused knives. Another note on the pocket clip, you can see you can actually reverse it if you want, so you can put it on the other side if you want. This is going to be tip up carry. There are no pocket clip places on the front to make it kind of a tip down. If you wanted to do that, I guess you could tap it or something like that, but from the factory, it comes intended as a tip up carry, which most people these days tend to prefer. There's some companies that are talking about how they don't do it because of safety reasons. I personally have never had a knife open up in my pocket. I understand why some companies do it, but I don't really agree with it. I like tip-up carry. We've got a little bit of jimping here on the back of the blade. I talk about jimping in most of my videos because it's kind of a big deal to me. I've had some knives where the jimping on it just shreds your thumb, and the knives that I carry, that's definitely something I look for. So some nice jimping that offers grip, where you can see it's basically just the skin of my thumb moving around. And when the, I guess the flexibility of the skin runs out, then my thumb isn't moving any further. So it holds on there really well without shredding all the skin on my thumb. Of course, I press on it super hard, so I get a little bit of indentation, but not overly aggressive. It's not going to mess your skin up or anything like that. It still offer you some good grip when you're trying to do some fine detail work. You don't really have a choil on this thing. You sort of do. You can kind of get your index finger in there, but you can see you're awfully close to the cutting edge. If you have larger fingers, you're going to be risking getting it kind of on there. I guess you could rest it back here a little bit, but you've got this nice little finger groove right here that your finger sets into pretty well, and it's close enough to the blade that you can get in there and do some nice detail work. Here's the pivot on here. Some people were asking if you can take the custom pivot from other knives and put it on here. I suppose it's possible. If you can find one that's the same size, that's always a possibility. I don't think that's the intention or anything like that, like they did with some of the Hinderer models where you're meant to be able to swap out different parts and everything. Let's turn it around a little bit more. There's those emerald green backspacers. That's a really, really cool look. I really like that they did it on the 450 as well. You got the red ones, and that's kind of a theme that they've been doing, especially with all their new knives this year, is like little hits of color. So kind of little subtle hints of color that are not, you know, just bright orange scales or bright green scales, which I also like, but it's also nice to see this subdued kind of matte black knife, and you got the little pop of green. So cool look to it. Turn around a little bit more. Haven't really talked about the action. I kind of went over it briefly, but you've got ZT's KVT bearings in there, so super, super smooth. If you get a little bit of action on there, you can feel the detent sticking, and then once it gets past the detent, which doesn't take a lot of effort, it flies open. So, I mean, it's not something that you have to put any wrist action on. You can see I'm holding my hand as still as I possibly can, and it just flies right out. I've never had to pull it out any further and make sure it locks or anything like that. Locks every time, comes out open really well every time, and it doesn't take any special skill. You know, some of the flippers out there, you got to know how to work them correctly. Basically, you can stick your finger on there and pop it, and you'll get it working every time. Gotta pay a little bit closer attention to how I flip it. I'm taking chunks out of my table here. Done it in previous videos. I've got little nicks all over the place. All right, so there you go. That is the new Zero Tolerance 0450, designed by Dmitry Sinkovich, made by Zero Tolerance here in the United States. Very, very cool knife. I love this thing. I've kind of gone away from the larger knives recently. I carried some larger knives for a long time, and I've gone the opposite direction. So I like the small and light knives. That's kind of been my kick lately. And this has been the best one that I found. So the Zero Tolerance 0450 CF. As of the time of the video, we have quite a few of these in stock. But these being zero tolerance, you know, they do tend to run out of stock because people like them. And they're made in relatively small batches. So we are going to keep on stocking these. These aren't a limited edition or anything like that. But just keep in mind that when you watch this video, we may or may not have them. But that's it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can reach me in the comments, or you can reach any of my guys on the phone, through email, or at contact us through goinggear.com. That's it. Thanks for watching.